Question for you. What have you done or can you continue to do or will you do as a member of the school board to make sure we have a deep pool of talent to lead our schools?
We have a leadership pool in our school district, and we have had for many years. What is important is that we make certain that we have leaders or potential leaders who have demonstrated strategies and abilities in the classroom. Not only develop those teachers who have great technical skills as far as strategy teaching in the classroom, but have shown themselves to be able to relate to students. I think a principal has to have rapport with his students, has to have rapport with their staff. And so the development of leaders not only should be limited to just great skills in terms of strategies and abilities, but it also must include developing their ability to communicate both with staff and students. We allow students or teachers to participate in this program who have potential to develop those kind of skills that we're looking for in our leaders. And we have a pretty good leadership pool. It needs to be probably more diverse in terms of looking at women, men, and minorities to make certain that that is part of what we're offering in developing those leaders. So I think that we have a program. It's the matter of making certain that we develop their skills, the potential that they have shown by putting their hat into the leadership pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We'll stick with you for the next question. The dual enrollment problem here at this college, at Florida Gateway, has proven immensely popular over the years. Is keeping that program intact a top priority for you?
Well, I think dual enrollment is a wonderful program. Has given parents a great opportunity to begin their child's college career. I would advise and encourage any student who is planning on going to college to participate in the program. It's just dual enrollment is just something that the state has created. Now, the problem with dual enrollment, although a great program, is the state didn't fund it for local school districts. We are having to pay for dual enrollment out of our hide, so to speak, because we really do not have the funds in which we could give every student an opportunity to participate in dual enrollment. There is a test that is required to participate in dual enrollment, and that's great. We have negotiated with a college who has participated with us in trying to lower the rate that they charge for dual enrollment, also to get a discount on the books that is required for dual enrollment. Is an extremely expensive program, but we're committed to it. We like to start it with our sophomore students, but we can't for economic and budgetary reason. But we are starting it at midway 10th grade, the second semester. I had thought that we were starting it at 11th grade, but we're really starting it at the second semester of 10th grade. So we're giving every student an opportunity, although because I think it's such a great program and it is a priority of our school board to provide an opportunity to kids to go to college, and that I think dual enrollment just offers that in a way that no other program has, and give every child an opportunity to participate in the college experience.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Green, same question for you. Is keeping the dual enrollment program for county schools intact a top priority for you?
Yes, it is, and I'm not going into the funding. Mr. Johnson covered that very well. I think that has been documented. I know I had sons that participated in the dual enrollment program, and I know for a fact at Columbia High School this past year they had 303 students that participated in the dual enrollment. I'm not sure on Fort White, but that's a lot of students that are participating in such an outstanding program. They get the opportunity to go in, and it's a blessing for parents also, where they're once they come into this program here, the funding is so much better than once they get out, and once they enter Gateway College or a four-year school, not being able to eliminate some of their college courses. So absolutely, I would be very much in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Ms. Scott, finally, the same question for you. Is maintaining the dual enrollment program a top priority for you?
Yes, of course. Matter of fact, my oldest daughter, she takes part in the dual enrollment program. And I really think that this is an awesome program to prepare students for college life as far as academics and other means. So I know finance is always something that it occurs, but if all possible, this is a program that needs to take top priority. It gives students the opportunity to get a little taste of how college life is. And also it helps out parents to allow their child to take part in courses that with no cost to the parent. So again, the need to again increase student achievement. The dual enrollment program is one program that would be of top priority. Thank you.
And that concludes the question and answer portion of tonight's forum for school board. It's time now for each candidate to make a 2-minute closing statements to the voters of Columbia County. And since candidate Johnson went first, he will go last. Candidate Scott, you now have 2 minutes to make a close to the audience of Columbia County.
I firmly believe that through my educational experiences, I'm the best candidate for this position. I firmly believe that I will adopt and vote on policy and procedures that will have a direct impact on the students of Columbia County. I firmly believe that parental involvement is a must. We must involve the parents in the decision making. I believe that the teachers should participate in ongoing professional development. I firmly believe that the student should have nothing less than a top-notch education with only hands-on creative learning in the classroom. And with these opportunities, they will institute the change needed as my top priority to increase student achievement. So again, if you're looking for an individual with new, innovative ideas, a voice for all students, a support system from all students, a liaison between the community and the school, vote Allison Scott, School Board, District 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now it's time for candidate Green to make a 2-minute closing statement to the voters of Columbia County. Mr. Green?
In this upcoming election, the future of the students and the school system will be in the voters' hands. Do you want to continue with business as usual, or do you want fresh, new ideas, total commitment, better representation, and a vision for the future? You need someone that has the students' and parents' best interest at heart, someone that can make big decisions at critical times and was not afraid to do so. If elected, I would be very accessible to the citizens of the entire community, and especially District 1. I would be your voice and representation on the board. Student achievement matters to everyone in the county. It is teamwork that will allow this to happen. I know about developing successful teams, and I feel like I can bring these skills and life experiences to the table. In closing, I have dedicated my entire adult life to the educational field as a classroom teacher or as a coach of multiple sports. I always had the philosophy, what is the right thing to do for our kids? I will be dedicated to student achievement and creating a relationship with the students, the teachers, the administrators, the parents, and the community I represent. As I have stated in public before, I am not a politician. I am a candidate for this very important position. I will be my own person, but I will be a team player with the rest of the board members to create a positive environment. I will be a full-time board member. This will be my job. I will be a public servant. I will service the needs of the parents and the students. It would be a great honor for me and a privilege to represent District 1 as your school board member for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Candidate Green. And now the incumbent, Leonard Johnson. You have 2 minutes to address the voters of Columbia County.
Thank you very kindly. As far as experience is concerned, without a doubt, I am the candidate with the best experience to do this job. I've 12 years experience on the board as a school board member. I'm a certified school board member. I'm also a certified public manager through Florida State University. I have the best and the most experience to do this job. I'm presently an educator. I'm presently a teacher. I know what are the strategies and the techniques and everything that is involved in the educational process. I've been an administrator. I've been a guidance counselor. I've been an alternative school teacher. I've been a regular classroom teacher. I have had all of the experiences that are needed for a person to transition from classroom to school board. I'm living the ideal situation as both the representative of a school board in Columbia County in which I live, in which I am committed and dedicated to doing. I have held this position for 12 years, and I've done it with respect, with integrity, and with commitment. I'm community involved. I have been. Many of you have seen me at events, at both academic and athletic and community events. I am the person who you are more apt to see in these various adventures involved in our community. I have a business. I've been involved in real estate for 15 years, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, having been on the school board for 12 years, that you need a business sense to make decisions about our school district, and I certainly have that business sense, both the education and the community involvement that I think is so vital to being a successful school board member. And I think that I have been and will continue to be so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Candidate Johnson. And that concludes our first segment of the candidate forums this evening. When we come back on Florida Gateway College Television, we'll meet the candidates for School Board District 3. You're watching Candidate Forums on Florida Gateway College Television.
I like to consider FGC as my first grand campus. I never thought I was going to go back to school or have the time to go back to school. Now my son, 12 years old, is looking at daddy after so many years, grabbing his books and going to school. And he's so proud. And I'm teaching him that you continue, my son, and you do what you have to. But be a man of your word and finish what you started.
Start your journey today at Florida Gateway College.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Ready or not, here I come.
Take time to be a dad today.
Daddy, I'm gonna find you.
So good to see you guys. So, what's up?
Oh, we finally bought a place.
Holy cow.
You seriously have enough saved to do that?
We've been putting a little aside each month.
Jeez, at the end of the month, we have nothing left to save.
Yeah, I have no idea where it goes.
Well, you're spending a lot on...
Is it good?
Oh, God.
Oh, how is my account overdrawn?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Oh, look, a redhead. Staring contest. You still got it.
I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Welcome back to Candidate Forum 2014. Along with the editor of the Lake City Reporter, Robert Bridges, I'm Mike McKee. Tonight's forum is brought to you by Gators Dockside, Tommy Demas, attorney at law, and Potash Corporation of White Springs. We thank them for their support of this worthwhile election year program. The rules for the second segment of the evening is that candidates for the School Board District 3, each of the candidates will get a 2-minute opening statement and a 2-minute closing statement, and then each candidate is given 2 minutes to answer the questions that we ask. Let's get started by meeting the candidates for Columbia County School Board District 3 between incumbent Steve Nelson and challenger Reggie Clauser. We drew numbers before coming into the studio, and candidate Clauser drew the number 1. Mr. Clauser, you have 2 minutes to make an opening statement and address the voters of Columbia County.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for letting me come into your living room. I want to thank Robert, the Lake City Reporter, Florida Gateway College, the voters of Columbia County for allowing me to come into your living room. Let me start off first by letting you know a little something about Reggie. I'm from a pioneer family. My great-great-grandparents settled in Columbia County in the early 1870s, west in Columbia County. I was born in Lake City in 1951, but was raised north of Atlanta because of my father's employment. After high school, I attended Kennesaw Junior College, where I earned an associate in business degree, and then transferred to Georgia State University, which was downtown in Atlanta, and took a lot of their business courses. Getting tired of fighting the traffic in Atlanta, I transferred to Kennesaw State University when it went to a 4-year university. Was awarded a bachelor's degree in business administration, majoring in marketing, minoring in economics. Married my college sweetheart in 1977, Paula, and we've been blessed with 2 children, now grown. After my college career, I was successful in corporate America with such giants as McCormick and Company and the Goodyear Corporation. I had a career change path and embarked out as a builder remodeler in the Atlanta market, which I successfully operated for 13 years. I built this on making good solid decisions, a budget which was attainable and affordable and realistic and within my means. I relocated to Lake City in 2004 and was employed by Hunter Marine for a short time before joining the Columbia County School Board Maintenance Department in 2006 and retired in June 2013.
Thank you very much, candidate Clauser. It's time now for the incumbent Steve Nelson to address the voters of Columbia County. Mr. Nelson, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Steve Nelson, and I have the pleasure of currently serving as your school board member for District 3. I am a native of Columbia County, and my family goes back 7 generations in this community. I am happily married to my wife, Tassie, and we have 3 children, Brant, Lauren, and Bria. My wife and I, as well as our daughter Lauren, are graduates of Columbia High School, and our youngest 2 children are currently students within the Columbia school system. I graduated from Lake City Community College, now Florida Gateway College, and went on to the University of Florida for sports medicine and Florida A&M University for physical therapy. And I also believe in lifelong learning, so I have pursued and attained a master's in business administration degree from St. Leo University. I'm employed by Lake City Medical Center and was recently promoted to the assistant vice president position of clinical operations. Maintaining an active presence in our community is important to me, and I have worked on many different boards and community service organizations within the county, including the March of Dimes, American Cancer Society, American Heart Association, and the United Way. Giving back to our community is equally important to me, and I volunteer my services to our local sporting groups annually to help with sports medicine coverage at local games and to provide free sports physicals for the youth of our community. In addition to these activities, I also have been coach for both the Columbia Girls Softball Association and the Columbia Youth Soccer Association. Serving you and the children of Columbia County continues to be my pleasure, and I hope that you will re-elect me to the position of school board member, District 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's time now for questions and answers and the broadcast. And to ask the questions is editor of the Lake City Reporter, Mr. Robert Bridges. Robert?
Thanks, Mike. We'll start our questioning with Mr. Clouser. Mr. Clouser, what is your opinion of charter schools? What role do you see the charter school movement playing in the future, both here and across the state?
Charter schools, education is a different field. Charter schools, posted to public schools, if they're run correctly and according to the Florida standards, I see no problem with them. Parents have to decide what's best for their own child and their own education. And if they feel that they can receive an adequate education, it also follows the Florida standards through a charter school, then that's their prerogative.
Thank you, Mr. Clouser. Mr. Nelson, same question for you. What's your take on charter schools and the charter school movement? What do you see as the future of that movement here and statewide?
The charter school movement has grown drastically over the past several years. Personally, I'm not against charter schools if they're done correctly. Here in our community, we have a charter school that is doing very well. We have another that's struggling a little bit, and it's the school board's job to not run those schools, not oversee those schools, but to make sure that those schools are doing the right things for the kids of our community. And if they're not, we need to follow the state law and do what's necessary to correct those issues and either get them back educating children appropriately or no longer operating. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. We'll stick with you for the next question. Please list your top 3 priorities for the school district in the coming 4 years, and please list them in order of importance as you see it.
Top 3, that's probably a good question. Number 1 in my mind right now is what I call succession planning. We've had a drastic loss of talent in our district at the top level, principals, administrators that are retiring. A lot of those folks due to the Florida Drop program that they got into is a great incentive to them, but we're losing those folks now, and we've got to do something as a district to make sure that we have quality people coming back into the system to replace those folks. Probably number 2, maybe financial. That's been an issue for us for the last several years. 2007 was the last good year I would say we had as far as finances. We've done what we needed to do. We've had a couple of years now where we didn't have the money we needed in our contingency fund, but this last year we were able to get that back to the 3% that the state wants us to have. And number 3, and I'm not sure I'll put these in the right order, but number 3 has definitely got to be accountability. We've got to do the right things for all of our schools. Not necessarily accountability on the students' parts. I think we're already holding them to that, and we're holding our teachers to that. But we've got to hold our own selves accountable. That's the board, that's the administration, so that we do the right things for all of the children in Columbia County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Clouser, what do you see as the top 3 priorities for the school district during the coming term? Please list them in order of importance as you see it.
I think, first of all, the one that's most important to me is getting the parents and parental involvement in our schools. A lot of our PTO has very poor turnout simply because a lot of them feel threatened. Parents, for some reason or another, don't see our schools as a friendly environment. I think we need to get them very involved. The community needs to get back in touch with them. As a school board member, I'll make it my duty to attend PTO meetings and see what I can do to deal with the community, bring us back operating as a team effort, and because there's a correlation between a good grade and parent involvement in their education. The second one is mentoring. A lot of these children have problems that I didn't face during my growing up. For some reason or another, they need somebody that just can tell them that, hey, I'm really proud of you. Keep up the good work. That goes a long ways. When I was in maintenance, I did magic tricks. They knew that they could get a reward for a magic trick by doing a good job and being well behaved in the classroom. The third topic is bringing some vocational training also to to the students. They need to be successful in whatever they do after high school, And putting them out with a high school diploma and the ability to do absolutely nothing is very disheartening to me. We graduate hundreds, and many of them don't come back. And we need to bring them back to Columbia County to where we can use their efforts here.
Thank you, Mr. Klauser. We'll stick with you for the next question. The dual enrollment program here at Florida Gateway has proven to be immensely popular. Parents and students. Is keeping that program intact a top priority for you?
Yes, I think it is. You get a little bit of taste of what you're really going to do, or maybe the field that you have chosen. Nobody really knows what they want to do for the rest of their life, and a lot of people that I know have degrees in certain subjects are not doing those. They're doing something else. My career, for a short time after college, I did use my degree running my own business. But if you have a degree in psychology and you're doing something else with it, that's fine and dandy. But the dual enrollment, I believe, as a whole, is a very good option for students.
Thank you, Mr. Klauser. Mr. Nelson, same question for you. Is keeping the dual enrollment program intact a top priority for you?
Without a doubt. Dual enrollment is just one of the options that many of the students have at our local high schools, and we've got to keep that program up and going. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, it costs us money to make that happen. I think we need to form a better partnership with our local college here and offer some more of those classes on the campus so that our students that can't drive, those students that don't have that ability to get out for those courses on the college campus can take those right there on the high school level. My daughter, who graduated just a couple of years ago, when she graduated high school, she had all but 2 classes done to have her AA degree when she left. And that financial support, that financial gain from that, basically her first 2 years of college were paid for when she graduated high school. A lot of folks aren't going to have that opportunity financially if we don't support them, if we don't do those things to keep that program up and going. So yes, I think the dual enrollment program is a high priority program for me.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. We'll stick with you. What are your concerns, if any, with the Florida standards and with how they will be implemented?
The Florida standards are very controversial, I guess, at the moment. Everybody wants to say it's just Common Core revisited, and I'm not going to say there mightn't be a little bit of truth to that, but I don't think that's all the truth. The Florida standards and the Sunshine State standards that we've had for years are some of the most rigorous in the country. You can look around at other states and compare them, and we hold our students to a different level than a lot of states do. The kids that graduate from here and go off to college, those universities know that the standards those kids were taught are what they're going to need when they get into the university. So the new standards, they are new. We've been sending our teachers off to be trained in the proper technique to get those across to everybody. I'm not scared of them. I think that we can meet the challenge. We've done it in the past, and we're going to do it again. I believe in our teachers, and I believe in our students.
Thank you. Mr. Klauser, same question. What concerns do you have, if any, with the Florida standards and with how they will be implemented?
Well, I really don't have a problem with change. Change is good. We definitely needed change. FCAT 2.0 was outdated. This country and our state, our children are behind. Internationally, international students are just eating our lunch. We need to challenge them. No more multiple choice questions. Let's analyze things. Make them think. Creative thinking. That's important. So making standards a little stiffer is a good thing, and they need challenge. And I really have no problem with the change.
Thank you, Mr. Klauser. We'll stick with you. Maintaining a good pool of educational leaders for the future is of obvious concern. What will you do as a school board member to ensure that we have a deep pool of potential administrators to lead our schools when the need arises?
Well, I'm self-employed right now, retired, so I've got a lot of time on my hands. That was one reason why I wanted to get involved with this. The school board member position is a part-time position. However, I want to get out with the teachers on a daily basis, as much as full-time as I possibly can. I have the ability to arrange my own work schedule, so it'll make it very simple for me. I want to eat lunch with the kids. I want to talk to the administrators, find out what things the school board can do to help them. This is a joint venture. The school board in the past has not been as active as I feel like it should be active, and I want to get out as much as full-time as I possibly can.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, same question for you. What can you do, have you done, or will you continue to do, to see that we have a deep pool of talent for potential administrators to lead our schools into the future?
Well, like I said earlier in the question earlier about the issues we're having, we have lost quite a few folks, and we do have a leadership pool here in the county where our folks that are teachers or are in other positions that have gone through the proper process are basically in that pool to become administrators. That doesn't mean that they're ready to be administrators. That just means they've met the qualifications. Right now, we've got several teachers that have just moved into administrative positions. For me, it's not necessarily about just getting them in, it's about keeping them and about keeping them motivated and teaching them the things they need. Due to the loss of these experienced administrators we've had over the last few years, if we don't do something to give these new folks some experience, we're going to lose them, and they're not going to do the right things. What I would like to do, and I've already been meeting with our superintendent, and we're actually applying for a grant for some funding right now, is to rehire some of our retired educators under contract so that those folks that have 20, 30 years of experience can come back in and mentor those new administrators so that we can bring them up to the level they need to be to succeed. We want to set these folks up for success because they're leading our kids. If we set them up for failure, we're failing our kids. So we've got to do the right things to get them the knowledge they're going to need to adapt. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Nelson. Again to you. An educated workforce is of obviously critical concern to the economic development of our county. What will you do to ensure that our students are ready for the workplace and that you can look a potential employer in the eye and say, these people are ready to work for you?
A good question. Through the years, our vocational programs at our high schools have done a great job, I think, of preparing kids for certain things, but we've got to start broadening that. And I think we are somewhat. Columbia High School is looking at a new aviation program, partnering with Emory-Riddle to see if we can get some programs in for aviation as a vocation, because those folks, when they get out of high school, if they've got the right certifications, they immediately start making a lot of money. Timco, right out here by the college, that would be a great employer, and they're on our program trying to get that set up as well. But it goes beyond that. I want to give you a real personal story real quick. When I was in high school, I had a teacher that sat down with my mom and told her and I that I needed to start looking for a vocation, that I wasn't college material. Kind of got in my head there for a little while that that's what I needed to do. So I did kind of look around at some of that, but it never set. Got out of high school, worked for a little while, decided that wasn't what I wanted to do, went back to college. I graduated from college summa cum laude, #1 in my class. It just goes to show you that our teachers affect kids drastically, no matter where they're going, whether it's a vocation, college-bound, whatever. So we've got to keep those kids motivated. We've got to give them the education they need so that they'll stay in our community and be a success.
Mr. Clouser, same question for you. What can you do to ensure that we have a properly trained workforce that's ready to go to work right after graduation?
I think it's going to be a very top priority for me. Vocational skills. I was a builder. I didn't learn that in college. I was made aware of those type of skills in high school. We had woodworking and metal shop back in the dark ages, and you did learn what square was, what plumb was, how to square up a building and start a building. That was important skills. In college, I learned how to run a business. The accounting background, economic, when to take chances, when it felt good, when it didn't feel good. I just feel like the vocational programs, not every kid is cut out for college and can't sit in a classroom. He needs to stay busy. We're always going to need plumbers. We're always going to need electricians. We have to do more for the vocational. I was in a conversation with a commissioner. He made me aware of the fact that a lot of the people, the big companies that come to Lake City have complained to the commission that we just don't have the skill. The people here in Columbia County just don't have the skills that these companies are requiring, and that we need to do a little bit better job with that. And so I noticed the college out here started a welding class, and they've got a full-blown HVAC class. Those are important classes. You can feed a family and fill the American dream and not have to go to college.
Thank you, Mr. Clouser. We'll start with you for the last question of the evening for this race. What are your thoughts about offering voluntary pre-K at all district elementary schools?
I'm not that familiar with the voluntary pre-K. However, these children do need to have certain skills in order to participate in the public schools. The cost, everybody, it just seems like you see the daycare centers free. Well, it's not free. Somebody's paying for it. I'm sure it's our federal government, or we have grants through the state. But the children do need the skills, and if we can give them those skills that will prepare those for kindergarten, I think it's a good thing that we need to be doing.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, same question. What are your thoughts about the possibility of offering voluntary pre-K at all district elementary schools?
I think it would be a wonderful thing to do. I have seen the benefits of the VPK program. The children that go through that program, by the time they get to kindergarten, they already have an established level of education. I mean, they're learning things that years ago we weren't teaching until kindergarten or first grade. So now these kids already know that. You know, where prior to VPK, a lot of those kids were coming into kindergarten, didn't even know their colors, didn't know their numbers, couldn't read just a few words, even if that. So now we've got these folks working with quality instruction, certified teachers, and they're becoming prepared. They're getting ready. They're achieving more, and we're seeing that in our schools right here today. If the finances support it, I think we should be able to offer VPK at every school.
And that concludes the question and answer segment of this segment. It is now time for each of the candidates to make a 2-minute closing statement. And since candidate Clouser went first, he will go last. Candidate Nelson, you have 2 minutes to close with a statement.
Thank you. I want to close tonight with one more question. The other day I was out visiting some supporters and meeting some new folks, and one of those asked me a question. That's a simple question. Their question was, why did I really want to be a school board member? Well, I've thought long and hard about that question and really had to soul search a little bit to see what the reason really was. It would be easy for me to say that it's because I enjoy working with the board, administration, teachers, and personnel of the Columbia County School District, and that would be true because they are amazing people. I could say that it's because I care about all of the children of our district that we serve, and that my own children are a driving factor that pushes me to make the good choices in our district, and that would be true. But that wouldn't be the whole truth. That wouldn't explain to you the feeling that I get when I see the students of our district doing so many amazing things, most of which you never read about in the newspaper. When I see our brightest students being accepted to major prestigious universities and excelling. When I see our artistically and musically gifted students performing and excelling in their art. When I see our vocational students obtaining and being recognized for their knowledge and professionalism. when I see our athletes putting their blood, sweat, and tears into their sport, all to be their very best. That feeling. That is why I want to continue serving as your school board member from District 3. I want to do all of the things that have to get done so that I can continue having that feeling when I look at all of the students of our district, because I know that they are all capable of doing amazing things. I want to continue working to make that possible. So on August 26th, please vote Steve Nelson, School Board District 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. And now, Mr. Clouser, you have 2 minutes to make a closing statement to the voters of Columbia County.
Hi again, voters. I entered this race because I just feel like that every child should have the same opportunity that I had. I had the opportunity, I grabbed the ball and I ran with it. These children deserve the same. We have a tremendous dropout rate. I was shocked to see the number of seniors, and then when that class came around, what the graduating numbers were. I was really shocked. I feel like that the mentoring program that I would like to be involved in would have an awful lot of influence on the children. Emphasis on vocational training for those that do not choose to go to college. They can have a skill and put food on the table. I enjoyed the twinkle in their eyes when they would see a magic trick. The classroom, it helped the teachers, classroom management. I promised them I'd do a magic trick if they were behaved the rest of the afternoon. They always did. They enjoyed those. I would be recognized in Walmart as the guy that had the magic ball. It just gave you a good feeling that you were helping out, and that going back to an old adage, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. It's true, and I don't want to see minds in Columbia County children wasted. So whether you early vote or wait till August the 26th, Reggie Clouser is the guy that you need to put in the seat.
Thank you very much, candidates. And that concludes the second segment of our candidate forum for this evening. When we come back to Florida Gateway College Television, we'll meet the candidates for county attorney. You're watching Florida Gateway College Television.
Hart, what's going on? I'm leaving. Why? What did I do? Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit. Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just please, don't leave. Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Every student at Florida Gateway College has their own story, personal goal, and journey.
I'm going to college for my mom, and I know she's rooting for me.
That's why we wanted to celebrate them and their success.
I'm at FGC to invest in my future.
That's why we focus on helping you get the education you need to get where you're going.
Florida Gateway College has afforded me the ability to deliver the best health care to my community.
Find the program or degree that's right for you and start your journey today at fgc.edu.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to the third segment of Candidate Forum 2014. I'm Mike McKee, the Executive Director of Media and Public Information at Florida Gateway College and a member of the Board of Directors of the Lake City Columbia County Chamber of Commerce. Tonight's forum is a joint production of the Chamber, the Lake City Reporter, and Florida Gateway College. Let's meet the two candidates for Columbia County Attorney. We have Joel Foreman and Bruce Robinson. The incumbent, Marlon Fiegel, chose not to seek re-election. We drew numbers prior to coming into the studio, and candidate Foreman, you drew the number 1. You now have 2 minutes to make an address to the people of Columbia County.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening. My name's Joel Foreman. I'm your candidate for Columbia County Attorney. I was raised right here in Columbia County, and I can think of no higher honor as an attorney than to be elected to represent my home county. I want to spend some time tonight sharing with you my vision for the role of the Columbia County Attorney here in Columbia County. As you probably know, we're the only county in the state that elects the county attorney, and I think that what comes with that is a higher degree of accountability between the county attorney's office and the voting public. When the county attorney is charged with negotiating a contract, he needs to do that with an eye toward what's in the best interest of the county he's representing, but also with an eye towards what's in the best interest of the voters of Columbia County. When the county attorney is handling a personnel matter or giving legal advice to county commissioners, which is another part of his duties, he needs to always have in mind what's in the best interest of the voters of Columbia County. And finally, when the county attorney is handling litigation, he should always conduct himself in a way that is efficient and effective in order to lessen the tax burden on the people of Columbia County. 3 years ago, I was hired to assist Marlon Fiegel as his conflict counsel. And what that means is whenever Mr. Fiegel, as elected county attorney, had a conflict of interest, the county entrusted me with that work and asked me to complete that work. As a consequence of that, I have actual experience as your acting county attorney, and I'm the only candidate in this race with that experience. I want to put that experience, as well as my experience as a town attorney, an economic development advisory board attorney, code enforcement board attorney, and counsel to the sheriff to work for you in this position. So on August 26th and during early voting on August 16th, I ask you to vote Joel Foreman for Columbia County Attorney.
Thank you very much. Time now for Mr. Robinson to make a 2-minute address to the voters of Columbia County. Mr. Robinson.
Good evening, and thank you for watching this evening. I'm Bruce Robinson, and I'm a candidate for county attorney. Your county commissioners deal with complex issues: growth management and infrastructure, water, utilities, land, and a proposed inland port development. They deal with contracts, budgets, and litigation. I am especially well suited for the county attorney job because of my extensive legal credentials. Life's experience, strong work ethics, values, and insight will enable me to provide the county commissioners with proven sound legal advice. Working as a field hand in watermelons and tobacco and on road construction, I paid my way through FSU. Upon graduation, I joined the Marine Corps and married my wife. I served our country as a Marine officer in Vietnam. I graduated with honors from UF Law School, working as a water law abstractor and serving with the Marine Reserve during that time. I've accumulated 42 years of legal experience representing individuals, farms, small businesses, and large corporations. I've also represented governmental entities, and I am a board-certified civil trial attorney, the only one in this race. I'm a Supreme Court certified circuit civil mediator, and I'm proud of the fact that I am an AV-rated lawyer by Martindale-Hubbell and have been for more than 32 years, which is the highest rating a lawyer can receive from his peers from the most respected rating agency. I've been board certified since '83 and a certified mediator since '91, and I'm currently serving on the Board of Governors of the Florida Bar. I have worked hard since I was 12, and I will continue to do so because it is just who I am. Thank you for your vote and support.
Thank you very much, candidates. It's now time for questions and answers on the broadcast. And to ask the questions is the editor of the Lake City Reporter, Robert Bridges. Robert?
Thanks, Mike. We'll start with Mr. Foreman. Mr. Foreman, you touched on this somewhat in your opening statement, but what specifically in your training, background, or temperament make you better qualified for this position than your opponent?
Well, number one, I think the skill set of the county attorney is not just the skill set of a litigator. Marlon Fiegel has done a fantastic job for our county for 26 years, and one of the reasons for that, I think, is because of his comprehensive skill set. As the county attorney, you not only handle litigation, but you're going to handle negotiation, you're going to handle personnel matters, you're going to handle complex statutory schema that, quite frankly, need to be explained to your county commissioners. You are a problem identifier and a problem solver. I have gained invaluable experience as a local government attorney representing the town of Glen St. Mary for 7 years, representing the city of Jasper as one of its code enforcement board attorneys, working as a special magistrate in White Springs and dealing with the public and trying to reach resolution of different code issues. I've had opportunities to work with our sheriff as his counsel in courts of law, representing the sheriff against folks involved in civil asset forfeiture proceedings, balancing their constitutional rights against considerations of state law. I've had the opportunity to represent the Economic Development Advisory Board for the last 3 years, negotiating economic development contracts and bringing new jobs to bear here in Columbia County through rather intense negotiations with economic development prospects. Those are the skills that you acquire through experience on the job. I have real experience on the job as the county attorney, and I believe I can bring that to bear each and every day as your elected county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Mr. Robinson, same question for you. You touched on this at some length in your opening statement, but what is there very specifically in your training, temperament, background that makes you a better qualified candidate than your opponent?
42 years of doing complex legal litigation, and not only complex legal litigation, but I have negotiated and drafted agreements involving millions of dollars in commercial transactions. That certainly qualifies me to do the kind of work that is done here. I have also represented governmental entities. I've represented the Baker County Hospital Authority, a special taxing district, I believe, since the 80s. I've represented the Water Management District in litigation. I've represented other governmental entities from time to time. So I have 42 years of complex work, and anything that can be learned by the conflict attorney, I can certainly learn if I don't already know it. And that's what I believe to be the basis of my skill set.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. We'll stick with you for the next question. Is the county attorney properly compensated as the position now stands?
Well, you know, I'm not really running for this job necessarily for compensation. From what I know, the county attorney is paid a set salary, and then for extra work, because a lot of work in Columbia County, as you may know, is farmed out to other law firms, not just Mr. Foreman, but law firms on a variety of areas, particularly law firms experienced in litigation, labor law, things of that nature. And so the county pays lawyers probably the commercial rate. I expect that I may be able to save the county some money on some of this, because I think I may be able to do some of this in-house that they are currently sending out to other law firms. So from what I know now, I would say that the base salary is certainly reasonable.
Okay. Mr. Foreman, same question for you. In your opinion, is the county attorney properly compensated now as the position currently stands?
As the position currently stands, the compensation for the county attorney is separately negotiated with the sitting county manager, who then takes that contract to the Board of County Commissioners for further negotiation for finalization. So unfortunately, if I was running for tax collector or property appraiser or sheriff or even circuit judge, I could sit here today and tell you to the penny exactly what the value of my compensation package would be. That's not been the case in Columbia County because, again, we're unique in that we have the only elected county attorney. There is no statutory format or formula to tell us what we're going to be paid. Marlon Fiegel is indeed paid a base. I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000. From that base, his incentives and his, not his incentives, his benefits are calculated. In addition, Mr. Fiegel can earn $100 an hour, sometimes more, handling work over and above the baselines that are set by his negotiated contract. In terms of outsourcing, you're going to see that the county participates in various forms of insurance, and frequently we'll have insurance defense counsel that will come in that can be paid a deductible. The county would pay a deductible to bring that counsel on, and those attorneys sometimes come from Jacksonville, sometimes come from Tallahassee, but they have a highly specialized area of practice, as Mr. Robinson indicated, that helps to protect the county at a vastly reduced cost. In terms of keeping matters in-house or being able to handle them in-house, the county attorney that you elect is going to be primary counsel on most of the matters that affect our county closely. I do agree that I think when we send money outside of the county attorney's office, it should be kept with with the counsel that are inside the county. But again, I think that's within the purview of the county manager and the county attorney, and it's something I would like to do to keep that money local.
Thanks, Mr. Foreman. You've both, in your answers, alluded to the fact that work is often farmed out as a matter of course for a county attorney anywhere. What kind of input does the county attorney have in saying who that's farmed out to, and what kind of input should the county attorney have in those decisions? For Mr. Foreman.
To me? Thank you. Should and does are often two different things that the county attorney has to struggle with. I believe as an elected county attorney, the people have delegated the responsibilities of the county's legal affairs to the individual they elect, so I believe the county attorney should absolutely have substantial input on the outsourcing of any legal work, whether that be to another firm in Lake City, to a firm in Gainesville, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, what have you. That does not always happen because, of course, if we elect to use insurance to defend a claim by a citizen or by another entity, then we need to pay the deductible, and as is frequently the case with insurance contracts, that counsel will be chosen for us. Now, the county attorney also collaborates with those outside counsel frequently or will provide sort of boots-on-the-ground assistance to those attorneys. I think it's incumbent on the county attorney to have good working relationships with all of our outside counsel to ensure that the legal interests of Columbia County are being looked out for at all times, no matter who the primary attorney on that matter happens to be.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson, same question for you. What kind of input does the county attorney have, and what kind of input should the county attorney have?
The county attorney has the input the county commission delegates to him. I think the county attorney should be prepared to give good advice to the county commission on lawyers if they are going to be sent outside. This is a talent that I have because I have appeared in as attorney of record in almost half the counties in Florida. I know lawyers who specialize in all manner of litigation throughout the state. As a matter of fact, I'm a member of the American Board of Trial Advocates. You're not even eligible for membership in that until you've tried 50 cases. I think that if elected county attorney and the county commission chose to send the matter out, I would give them the benefit of my knowledge on who I felt was qualified and capable of doing it. As far as the defense counsel that my colleague mentioned about having to pay your deductible or self-insured retention, whichever term you like to use, I have done a lot of work. I've represented Florida Farm Bureau Insurance among many other clients for 42 years, so I'm well aware of that kind of litigation, and I think can add a lot of insight to the county commission's decision. But I would not try to take their decision from them.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson, we'll stick with you. What are the important elements of a successful negotiation? And if you would please give us an example, without violating anyone's attorney-client privilege, of an issue you resolved by way of negotiation rather than litigation when it might well have gone the other way?
Well, there are so many. I've mediated literally hundreds of cases since I've been a mediator a certified mediator since 1991. Usually, when you try to mediate a case, and I don't think it appropriate because, as you may be aware, Chapter 44 makes whatever happens in mediation confidential, and it is not to be disclosed. Matter of fact, under most instances, the mediator is exempt from subpoena concerning a hearing on what transpired in a mediation. But what you try to do is let everyone sound off, get the steam off, if you will. You let them have their say and then start calming them down, making them feel comfortable with the process. And then as you work your way through, I've had mediations that lasted 3 days. I've had one that went to 3 a.m. in the morning, but we got it resolved ultimately.
Thank you very much. Mr. Foreman, same question for you. What are the elements of a successful negotiation, if possible, without violating your code of ethics, described in just the vaguest, most general terms? A situation you've confronted where you've avoided litigation.
I can give you a rather specific example from my time working with the Economic Development Advisory Board. We always look for what we call at law quid pro quo, an even exchange or an exchange of one thing for another. We had an economic development prospect who was interested in bringing about $30 million in capital improvements to Columbia County. And of course, Economic Development Department was extremely excited about the prospect, but said, you know, we're going to need, if we're going to participate with you in this economic development project, we need to ensure that we're creating good jobs for people here in Columbia County. And so we specifically negotiated for very particularly delineated terms as to what sorts of jobs those were going to be, how much they were going to be for, when the capital improvements had to be completed. While those negotiations were ongoing, the prospect actually came back to the table and said, we want to split this up. We want to break it into 2 pieces. And we would like to do the smaller piece first, but go ahead and get the full value of the negotiated deal. That's not good negotiation strategy, and that's not something that I, as the county attorney, was prepared to advise the county to do. So we, in turn, broke up our considerations so that we were not overpaying for the economic development we were committed to receive. And so I think that's the fundamental, is you always have to be giving and taking in negotiation, and it needs to be with a semblance of fairness that most ordinary people understand. That applies in economic development, that applies with boundary disputes, that applies with eminent domain negotiations. That's going to apply when a member of the public walks in and has a dispute with the county that they want to try to resolve without bringing the lawyers to bear, so to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Once again, to you. What is the downside of having an elected as opposed to an appointed county attorney?
Well, I've been saying this a lot as I go across the county, talking to all the people I've been talking to. The downside of it is, in Columbia County, the Board of County Commissioners does not have the power to summarily fire their county attorney if they're not getting along. They can, in fact, limit the county attorney's duties through various efforts, but the county attorney in Suwannee County or Baker County or Hamilton County, if he's not keeping his county commissioners and his county manager happy, he's at risk of losing his job. That's not necessarily the case in Columbia County because, again, it is an elected position. I also think that from time to time, the accountability to the public can create a tension for the county attorney who may feel like he needs to render legal advice to his county commissioners that might not be politically popular. The alternative could be true. You have to render legal advice that your commissioners may not like, but which is politically popular. So introducing the political element into the discussion when you're talking about being a county attorney is a complicating factor. Fortunately for the voters, it begins and ends with, I think, the county attorney himself.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson, same question for you. What is the downside of having an elected county attorney?
The downside is most people in society pick their lawyers. Most companies pick their lawyers. Our county does not get to do that, and as you know, the voters have rejected charter amendments on that as recently as, I believe, 2012. So simply stated, whereas most people, most companies pick their lawyers, our county commission has them picked by the public.
Thank you very much. We'll stick with you for the next question. Are there any new, novel legal problems that might confront a county attorney in the digital age, for want of a better word, that might not have previously been a concern here?
Well, as you know, the digital age is upon us. For example, we have e-filing now in the federal court and the state courts, and unfortunately, they're not the same e-filing system. Increasingly, everything is going to be computerized or kept in a digital format. We're all going to have to adjust. When I started practicing law, the tool of choice was an IBM Selectric typewriter. Now, if that's all you know how to use, you've been left behind. So the county is going to have to continue to upgrade its technical and IT program because that is the future.
Thank you very much. We'll stick with our Mr. Foreman. Same question for you. Are there novel issues, questions of law that might not have yet been determined that you might have to confront in the digital age?
Absolutely.
As a county attorney?
Absolutely. Florida has some of the most rigorous, what we call here, sunshine laws, which are public records access laws in the country. Those laws require various entities, in some cases even private entities, to act as records custodians so that when the public demands to know what their government has been up to, they have free and open access to those records, subject to limited restrictions and exemptions that exist within Chapter 119 Florida statutes. The digital age has called into question, in the case law that I'm familiar with, the question of reasonableness in terms of the public entity's responsiveness to a public records request. In today's age, it's easy enough to take a 100-page document and attach it to an email and hit send, whereas only 5 years ago, retrieving that 100-page document and getting it to its sender, or getting it to the requesting party might have been a much more difficult process. In Florida, we are fortunate in the sense that the courts have at all times viewed public conduct with respect to 119 requests in a light that I think is very favorable to the public entity, so long as we're trying to respond to the public records request. But I do think the advent of the digital age and the fact that, as Mr. Robinson indicated, virtually everything that's filed now begins in an electronic format is a challenge that's going to be presented over and over and over again to the next county attorney.
Thank you. We'll stick with you, Mr. Foreman, to start the last question of the evening for this race. Let's say the county commissioner or county administrators have a different view than you on something that in your mind is purely a matter of law. It's a question of law, not a policy, and they've got a position that in your view is wrong. How do you go about resolving such a disagreement?
Well, I think we have to understand the outer limits of our authority as county attorneys. It is true, I believe, in Columbia County that it's a bit different in the sense that the person's elected. However, the role of the attorney and the role of advocate and the role of counselor, you are providing legal advice. The county attorney is not going to be a sixth commissioner. He's not going to be someone who votes. He's not going to be someone who has veto power. In the circumstances that you've just described, Mr. Bridges, it would be my practice to write a fairly succinct and specific legal opinion informing the commissioners and the county manager to the best of my ability as to what I believe the state of the law to be on the question, with a definitive opinion as to whether or not I think the course of action that the county might intend to take is in fact legal. I think that's my core charge. And if the county commission chooses to act in opposition of explicit legal advice, then that is in fact, as policymakers, the county commissioner's prerogative.
Mr. Robinson, how would you confront such a situation? Purely a question of law, not of policy, and they're wrong in your view.
Well, I would give them my legal opinion and suggest that I give them a written memo to support that opinion. And I have done that representing governmental bodies before. I have given them legal written opinions about what they could and couldn't do. I have dealt with, as my colleague says, the Public Records Act, the Government and the Sunshine Act, and if they choose not to follow my advice, then that, of course, is a decision that they make, not me. But I would give them the benefit of the best legal advice I could give them.
Okay, candidates, that concludes the question and answer portion of the program. It's time now for each candidate to make a 2-minute closing statement. And since candidate Foreman went first, he will go last. Candidate Robinson, you have 2 minutes to address the voters of Columbia County.
Thank you. I believe I'm better qualified to serve as county attorney because my qualifications are more extensive and my substantial legal credentials have depth based on 42 years of experience representing and advising private citizens, businesses, local boards, and government entities, and I have extensive trial experience. This is no political stepping stone for me. I simply want to apply my experience for the benefit of the citizens of Columbia County and to the needs of your elected county commissioners. It's time to think in terms of things other than signs or sound bites and to think of and to focus on real substance here. My life's experiences and professional accomplishments give me the confidence to promise you that I will serve you well. I will continue to work hard. One thing I think is of particular interest as we talk increasingly about this inland port, I have had the opportunity to work with large companies to negotiate large deals, including shipping of material, even internationally, rail transmission of product, and I think that will come or serve me in good stead in dealing with the county as we develop and move forward with this inland port.
Thank you very much, candidate Robinson. And now a closing comment, 2 minutes, from candidate Joel Foreman.
With respect to the inland port, in my 3+ years of experience working with the Economic Development Advisory Board, I have extensive personal dealings with Plum Creek and am intimately aware of the efforts that Plum Creek has undertaken in bringing that project to fruition. With respect to tonight, you've heard several questions that I assure you have merely scratched the very surface of what it means to be Columbia County's attorney. Hopefully you've gotten some insight into the positions of the candidates and you feel better prepared today to make a decision. But this is not a position that's wrapped up in litigating cases. I've tried cases to juries, I've tried cases to the bench. I feel very confident that to the extent my litigation skills are called into question or are challenged by this position, I will equip myself very well as your county attorney. This job has much more to do with interpersonal relationships, with working with your county commissioners, with working with your county manager, and working with the citizens to bring them together to reach good resolution to complex problems. As you cast your ballot, it's as simple as this. I'm experienced in doing this job. I have developed that experience over the course of the last 3+ years as Marlin Fiegel's conflict attorney. And prior to that, I had developed my experience as a local government attorney for a period of about 7 years. My opponent is a very well qualified and accomplished trial attorney. And I say it again, trial experience, trial work is but a part of this position. I've prepared myself over several years to take this job. I look forward to the challenge and the opportunity of doing this job for the next 4 years, and if you will have me, for many years to come. So on Election Day and during early voting, please vote Joel Foreman for Columbia County Attorney.
Thank you, gentlemen, and that concludes this segment. When we come back, we will have the candidates for U.S. Congress. Don't go away.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Can you help me with this? My new dad teaches me all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
He helps me with homework.
That would be 3.6795.
Thanks.
Yep.
He helps me with my decision making.
I wouldn't use this one. Ever.
And he's even teaching me how to drive.
And that's why cars have bumpers.
I'm learning so much.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Being a registered nurse is a rewarding job. But if your career goals have you looking for more, Florida Gateway College can show you the way.
As a nurse, I love to help people. But I wanted to go further.
With our Bachelor of Science nursing degree, RNs have the opportunity to increase their career options and income earning potential.
Now I've got more choices, and the extra money isn't bad.
Start your journey today at Florida Gateway College.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Welcome back to the final segment of Candidate Forum 2014. I'm Mike McKee. Let's meet the two candidates for U.S. House of Representatives from the 3rd District of Florida. We have the incumbent, Ted Yoho, and the challenger, Jacob Rush. We drew numbers prior to coming into the studio this evening, and candidate Rush drew the number 1. Mr. Rush, you have 2 minutes to address the voters of Columbia County.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jake Rush, and I'm running for U.S. Congress District 3. From being a sheriff's deputy and a constitutional lawyer, I've seen the encroachment of the government and the need to stand against it. As a sheriff's deputy, I saw in people's homes the way the laws affect them personally. I saw cycles of crime, enablement, and poverty. I was born in this district, married my wife in this district, had a son in this district. I went to school at UF, worked at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, and then as a lawyer, I did constitutional law, which includes successfully defending the first stand your ground case in our circuit. The experience of being law enforcement in the executive branch and being a lawyer in the judicial branch gives me a unique insight into the legislative branch, the laws that are passed, the deliberative process, and the planning that has to go in order to write laws that are enforceable and are practical. My focus is the economy, jobs, and stability for District 3. The debt has been out of control for far too long. We're looking at $17.6 trillion, and it's increased by $2 trillion this year. We pay $220 billion a year in interest. That is flat waste. The federal government has grown too big, it's encroached on our rights, and it needs to be shrunk and the 10th Amendment respected. I'd like to be your congressman. I'd like to take my experience up to DC. I'd like to hold the government accountable and enforce our rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now the incumbent, Ted Yoho. Mr. Yoho, you have 2 minutes to make an opening statement.
Hello, my name's Ted Yoho, and I'm your representative for Florida's 3rd Congressional District here in North Central Florida. It's been an honor and a privilege to be your conservative voice in Washington. I don't take it lightly. My past is I'm a large animal veterinarian with 30 years experience. I've owned my own practice for 25 years, and I've called North Central Florida home for the last 38 years. I'm a Christian, conservative, family values man. I've been married to my wife, Carolyn, for over 39 years, and we're the proud parents of 3 grown children. I ran for Congress because my wife and I are products of the American dream, and we saw that under attack, and it was unacceptable. We wanted better results in government, just like you do. What I'd like to focus on are some of the key issues affecting this race. They are national debt, jobs in the economy, national security, border security, immigration, and addressing the lack of accountability in Washington. This is the first Congress since 1978 that we have brought our spending back to the constitutional control. We've passed over 40 good jobs bill that'll have a positive effect, not just here in the nation, but right here locally in Lake City. I passed my first bill and 5 amendments that rein in the out-of-control spending of government, the overreach of rules and regulations, while increasing our national security and bringing in just the way the government works. These are good bills, plus they protect our personal privacy. We've kept this country out of going to war in Syria, keeping our brave young men here in the United States of America, preventing them from going to another country. We've made changes to the VA system, bolstering up how our veterans get care and access. And I'm asking for your vote and your support, and we've returned over $240,000 of your money back to the federal government to pay off our national debt, and I thank you.
Thank you very much. It's now time for the question and answer segment of the broadcast. And to ask the questions tonight is once again, the editor of the Lake City Reporter, Robert Bridges.
Thanks, Mike. We'll start with Mr. Rush. Mr. Rush, you and Mr. Yoho are both conservative Republicans who seem in agreement on almost every major issue. What, if any, substantive, and I stress the word, policy differences divide you?
I think what really divides us is our different strategies. When Mr. Yoho ran for Congress in 2012, he stressed large challenge the authority platform. My platform is more for stability, for strategy, and thoughtfulness. When we look at our different positions, what separates us is that I believe firmly in the conservative philosophy. I've seen it in effect. I've seen what happens when the conservative philosophy isn't followed, when government gets too large, when it's intrusive into people's lives, and I've actually fought in court for people's rights against the federal government. It's not something that pays well. It's not something that's popular. The federal government has incredible power and seemingly unlimited resources, and that's part of what I'm looking to end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yoho. Same question. What are the substantive differences in policy that divide you from Mr. Rush, as opposed to differences in style, temperament, or anything else?
I don't know what his policies are. I can tell you what mine are. We ran for God, country, and family, to get spending under control, to get the overreach of our federal government under control. And we've done those things, like bringing spending back. First time in 1978, we've gone back to a process called regular order, where you go through a budgetary process and do your 12 appropriations. We've already passed 7 appropriation bills this year. The Senate hasn't picked up one of these. You know, we went up there challenging leadership because Washington lack leadership and a direction. And some people said that was a bad thing when I voted against Mr. Boehner. But let me tell you, I got the committees I wanted to be on. We're working bipartisanly. I sit on the Ag Committee, the only member in Florida to sit on the Ag Committee, and I sit on Foreign Affairs. And even with the challenge I did to leadership, it's made our conference better. I've had one bill pass. I'm one of the few there are 7 freshmen that have ever had a bill pass this Congress, and I'm one of those. And we've changed the dynamics up there. The last thing you can see is the border security bill we just passed. The conservatives that stood up and said we were not going to support that first bill, we changed the dynamics to make a better bill to increase security at our border. So the policies and the conservatives, you know, so many people want to run on a scorecard with some of these outside groups. I don't want to name them, but we know who they are. They're the common ones you see in the newspaper all the time. At times, you have to go and you have to make tough decisions and legislate. A perfect example is the Murray-Ryan budget. That was one of the ones that the outside group said it was a bad vote. But let me tell you what would have happened if we wouldn't have passed that bill. Number one, we wouldn't have gotten back to regular order, where we brought the control of spending back to the control of the Constitution. Number two, our military wouldn't have been paid. Our Medicare and Social Security benefits would not have been paid. So those are tough decisions that you have to make as a leader, as a legislator, and by doing that, we brought stability to the market. And I think being able to stand up and make tough choices is where we'll probably differ.
Thanks, Mr. Yoho. We'll stick with you for the next question. What should be done? What can be done? What do you propose doing to stem the tide of corporate inversion when U.S. corporations reincorporate offshore in order to avoid paying U.S. taxes, which they say are out of line with the rest of the world?
And they're absolutely right. Our tax code is the most complicated, complex tax code in the world. When we have dignitaries from foreign countries and from companies that are around the world, they tell us the same thing. America is at the highest tax rate in the world. We're at 38%. Some companies are paying almost 41%. I'm a big proponent of the fair tax. I ran on the fair tax. We're fighting to get the fair tax passed. And I can tell you, this is the first year that Dave Camp, the chairman of the Finance Committee, has actually looked at it. We've got over 175 co-sponsors. This would simplify our tax code. It would get rid of the IRS, and April 15th would be just another day in America. I think we could all relish that. If that does not pass, what we're looking to do is take our corporate tax rate down to 25%, and businesses will come in here. The reason businesses go offshore is because our tax code is so convoluted. There's also something that was passed back in 2011 called FATCA, which taxes our American citizens overseas, and it's gotten to the point where we've lost our competitiveness around the world because our government is tracking down our citizens like criminals. And this is a tax that needs to be repealed. It doesn't bring in that much extra income. And with going back to the fair tax, that also repeals our inheritance tax, which is a tax that was brought in 3 times in our history, during the American Revolution, the War of 1812, and the Civil War. And every time it came in, it got repealed. It came back in World War I, and we've never let it go away. And this is something that people are getting taxed when they pass on and they pass their estate on, and so they're getting taxed for stuff they've already paid taxes on. And so we're going to continue to fight to simplify our tax code, to create a favorable environment for businesses to come to America, to grow our company strong. And I appreciate the question.
Thank you. Mr. Rush, same question for you. What's your take on inversion? Do we need to revise the tax code? Is that the way to address the problem?
The tax code is way too complicated and has grown out of control. It's to the point where folks can't rely on predictability in order to build their businesses and invest. We certainly need to lower the corporate tax rate. We see many American companies shifting their profits offshore, playing tax games in order to avoid taxes. Therefore, the tighter the grip of the federal government, the actual less benefit that it reaps. In regard to taxes, I'm the only candidate in this race who signed the Americans for Tax Reform tax pledge, pledging not to raise the income tax for the American people. We are far too taxed enough already. I believe that if we return and keep more money with the locals and away from the federal government, which grows more and more expensive, more and more bureaucratic, that we would allow local businesses, local entrepreneurs to jumpstart our economy. That includes large business, corporate tax, family business, and medium-sized businesses. Thank you.
Mr. Yoho, would you like to rebut?
Yeah, I would. I did not sign the Grover Norquist tax pledge to America. I made a pledge to my country, my God, and to my family, and to the constituents of the 3rd Congressional District. You sent me up there to do a job. I'm a business owner, and I pay enough taxes. I don't want to pay any more taxes, and I'm going to fight not to pay any more taxes or make sure that you don't pay any more taxes. When you sign pledges to outside groups like that, you're indebted to what they tell you to do. There's so many congressmen on the Hill right now that say, I am so glad you didn't sign that. We're trying to get out of it, because you're held indebted to that person. If our country gets to a point where we have to raise taxes, say we went to war, God hope we don't ever go to war, but if we went to war and we had to raise funds, say China attacked us, where are you going to borrow the money? From China? I don't think so. And what they did in the past is we raised savings bonds, and taxes were an option at that point. I don't want to raise taxes, and I'm going to fight not to raise taxes, but signing a pledge to somebody that's not one of my constituents, I gave you my word, and like I said, I made a pledge to God, my country, my family, and you.
Mr. Rush, any response to that?
It's important that candidates keep their word and provide predictability. When someone runs for office, you want to know what they stand for and what they're going to do once they're in office. With me, it's what you see is what you get, and I'm not afraid to put that in writing. Thank you.
Next question for Mr. Rush. Do you think impeachment proceedings are warranted against the President of the United States? Would you vote to impeach him, and on what specific grounds?
The impeachment question is better for Mr. Yoho, since he's a current congressman. If elected, I would not take office until 2015, in which case the terrain could easily change, such as the composure of the Senate. We're hoping to win a Republican Senate, and that will change the train significantly. I don't think impeachment proceedings are something that I would follow in 2015, but I understand that that's been something our current congressman has mentioned several times, so it's really a better question for him.
Mr. Yoho?
Could you repeat the question?
Well, do you think impeachment proceedings are warranted against the President of the United States? Would you vote to impeach, and if so, on what specific grounds?
Okay. You know, this is something we have the debate on. I think what we really need to focus on is why we're even having this debate. We're having this debate. There's several instances right now of why this debate's come up. The president's not enforcing the laws already on the book. Look at our southern border. This is a perfect example. We've got a porous border. They're not securing the border. They're not enforcing the laws on the book. We went to war, or we bombed Libya without going through the proper channels of Congress. We released Sergeant Bergdahl without going through Congress and giving a 30-day notice. We also passed a law called Obamacare. It's the biggest legislative malpractice in our country's history. Yet this president, after it went through the constitutional debates and it was deemed the law of the land, this president, with his pen, has arbitrarily changed the law of the land. So when you ask, is impeachment warranted, you have to look at why you're even addressing that situation. Congress has but 4 arrows in their quiver that they can hold a president accountable. We elect a president to faithfully execute the laws of the land. And when they don't do that, you can take one of those arrows out. The first one is we have the power of the purse in Congress. And again, with the 113th Congress, we brought the power of the purse back with the Murray-Ryan budget. So we can withhold funds, and we've done that. The other thing you can do is censure a president. That's nothing more than a slap on the wrist. We sued the president for the illegal recess appointments to the NLRB. He got sued. We won the lawsuit. And yet this president keeps overstepping the boundaries of the Constitution. So now here we are. We've got a president that's overstepping. And the last thing, and when we said we were going to sue him, he laughed at us and said, go ahead. You're going to sue me for doing your job? No, sir. Absolutely not. We don't want to sue you and we don't want to impeach you. But if you don't follow the rule of law, the last thing we have is impeachment. And we don't want to go there. This is not our choice. This is the president's choice. And I ask him to follow the law he was elected to enforce.
Thanks, Mr. Rush. I know you're not a sitting member of Congress, but what about the lawsuit? What is your take on that? Was it a wise move, or was that something that's not going to go anywhere?
Well, when the president overreaches, it is Congress's duty to take some action. They are the legislative body that's given the power by the Constitution to do something about it. And them sending a lawsuit over to the judicial branch, it seems mainly ceremonial, may not get anywhere, but it's sure a lot better to have 2 branches of the government saying the same thing than just the legislative branch. So you've got the legislative branch saying, President, you need to change your ways. The judicial branch looking at the complaint from the legislature and saying, yep, they're right, the President, you need to change your ways. I believe that gives a better leverage than not having it.
What's your response to that, Mr. Yoho?
We're suing the president to force him to follow the law, and we're doing it in an outside court, not through the Supreme Court. This will give us standing, and if we have standing, and it goes back to the health care law when we waive the mandate for the individual, for the employers, the individual mandate. So we have standing because Congress as a body has enforced or has passed a law, and it's the president's job to enforce the law as written. When he took out that mandate, he damaged us. We have standing in this case. And I want to remind you that President Obama claims to be a constitutional lawyer. My opponent claims to be a constitutional lawyer. And I don't know if that's an important thing. I mean, I would hope they would follow the Constitution and follow the rules of this land. And if they did, nobody would be talking about suing this president. Nobody would be talking about impeaching. And again, this is the president's choice, not ours. All we ask is faithfully execute the laws of the land. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Mr. Rush, next question for you. It seems that with precious few exceptions, no matter who we put in the White House, who we put in Congress, for decades now, spending and the deficit just goes up, and the middle class continues to shrink. What can be done about this? Where do we even start to address this problem?
Where we start is having a threshold analysis of whatever bill comes across the desk of a legislator. It's if it's constitutional and if we can afford it. With our deficit spending, there's very little we can afford, but there are a lot of programs that can be cut, a lot of the federal government that's far exceeds the constitutional mandate that can be lessened. As the federal government grows and promises more and more, it costs more and more, it takes more and more. Anything that's government funded is taxpayer funded. And the problem is when we take that out of the wallets of our workers, of our middle class, we're draining our communities. We're draining the very people who would add an extra worker to their mom and pop business, who would expand into another branch, or who would continue to grow or move into a new market if they had the ability to not suffer under so much taxation and regulation. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Mr. Yoho? Sure. Mr. Yoho, it doesn't seem to matter who's in the White House, frankly. It doesn't seem to matter which party is leading Congress. For decades now, spending goes up, the deficit goes up, middle class continues to shrink.
Sure.
Where do we start to address this problem?
Well, you got to look at what the drivers of our spending are. Approximately 75% of the spending that the American government does is in three programs. It's Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and then you add on to that to the retirement for our military and our federal employees. That's 75% of the spending. We can look at that discretionary spending, which is the other 25%, and if you look at what happened with sequestration, that was a 2% across the board cut on discretionary spending. It wreaked havoc on our economy. Until we address the very things that are becoming unsustainable, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and have an adult conversation on how to reform these and make sure that the people who have paid into these systems get the money that they are owed. They're not entitlements, that's their money, they need to have it. But until we have that conversation to address that, along with military retirement reforms, the Department of Defense tried to reform the military retirement program, but they go about it in the wrong way. They want to come out with a hatchet and make the reform today instead of sitting down. When we voted in the Murray-Ryan budget, it gave a 1% pay raise to all military, active military, but it also put a 1% reduction of the COLA increase starting today. Instead of saying anybody that gets into the military from this point forward, change their retirement plan, don't change the retirement plan for the people that have already laid their life on the line for this country. That's where you get all this party bickering. But the problem in Washington is when you have these contentious issues, the party politics uses, say, Social Security as a political football, and people run from it and they don't want to solve the problem. We're at a point in time in our history when you listen to Harvard Business School, the Heritage Company, the Congressional Research Service, they all say that we have to have responsible reforms and we have to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Yoho. Last question of the evening. Mr. Yoho, what might Secretary of State Kerry done differently to better diffuse the conflict in Gaza? Or was it hopeless from the start? What can he do now?
I tell you what, that's a tough situation over there. I look back at that one dignitary that said the best thing for John Kerry is to get the Nobel Peace Prize and go on vacation. That's a tough situation. I've sat with Mr. Kerry in Foreign Affairs, and we were talking about Syria. And I thank him for his service to our great country, but there's going to have to be a two-state solution. And we can be a moderator, but you can't pick sides in that. We had Nancy Pelosi the other day saying Hamas was a humanitarian organization. You know, the Palestinian organization is a loose-knit government, and it's run by Fatah, which is their more sedate group, and Hamas has been deemed a terrorist organization. You have to take into consideration what Israel is going through, and in the Gaza situation, we've been over there. We took a trip over there. I sit on Foreign Affairs, and I deal with the Middle East, non-proliferation, and terrorism. To be right there and see the Palestinians doing the attacks they are on the Israeli citizens, there's things that we can do from a foreign affairs standpoint in our foreign aid. For instance, in the Palestinian Authority, we give that organization, that government, $500 million of the American taxpayers' money. In their own resolutions, Resolution 21 and 23, they pay Palestinians for creating crimes of terror against Jews and American citizens. The more severe the crime, the more money they get. They get paid an average of $3,600 a month in a country that the average annual income is $4,000 a month. So we put in a bill to remove all foreign aid until the Palestinian Authority removes those resolutions from their books. By doing things like that, we have a little bit of leverage to say, if you really want our help, stop paying people to blow up Israeli and American citizens. I mean, it's just common sense reform, and I appreciate the question.
Thanks, Mr. Yoho. Mr. Rush, what's your take on this? What might Secretary Kerry have done differently? What might he do now to defuse this situation in Gaza?
Well, I firmly take a side, and that's the side of Israel. Israel is our ally, has been our ally, will continue to be our ally. They're a functioning democracy in the Middle East. They're a rock for the United States. They help protect us against our mutual enemies. Palestine, ISIS, the infection of the Muslim terrorist organizations across the Middle East have stated goals of destroying Israel, destroying the West. In order for us to maintain our national security, we have to be a staunch supporter of Israel. As far as Secretary Kerry's response, I don't think it's been strong enough. I think it's been wishy-washy, and I'm a little embarrassed that he hasn't taken, as a former military man, a stronger position regarding stopping the violence. You can't just allow a country to fire rockets into your ally and not do something swift about it that ends the threat. Thank you.
And that concludes the question and answer portion of this segment of the broadcast. It's time now for each candidate to make a 2-minute closing statement. And since candidate Rush went first, he will go last. Candidate Yoho, you have 2 minutes to address the voters of Columbia County.
Again, my name's Ted Yoho, and I am your representative for North Central Florida's 3rd Congressional District, and it's been an honor and a privilege to represent this area. And I'm asking for your vote and your support to send me back to continue the work that we've started. Reining in government spending, the rules and the regulations and the mandates with the bills I've passed, and to continue to fight for our veterans the way they fought for us. To make sure they have access to quality health care, to hold the VA accountable, to fight for our seniors in their Social Security and Medicare benefits that they deserve, that we owe them. We're going to continue to fight to secure our borders and to change the direction of our foreign policy. America's at a point in time of uncertainty. We've got increasing debt, out of controlled spending that people are afraid to address, and this is the time to address it. You know, if you look at our foreign policy, it's like a broken compass. Our allies don't know if they can depend and count on us, and our enemies certainly don't fear or respect us. There was a time in history in America when our word and our actions meant something. There was a time in America when our politicians and candidates spoke the truth, not tell lies like if you like your doctor, your health insurance, you can keep it. Our leaders would talk about the greatness and the exceptionalism of America. My wife Carolyn and I are products of the American dream, and we want to fight to preserve that. We have seen this country go from greatness to where it's not admired around the world like it used to be. And I'm asking for your vote, and I'm asking you to stand with me, to send me back so that we can rebuild America, not to what she once was, but to the greatness that she can be. And I'm asking you to stand with me, to vote for me on August 26th. Go to my website, it's tedyoho.com. And thank you for the opportunity to be in your house, and God bless America. And this is the greatest nation on earth. It's time to rebuild it. The time's now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congressman Yoho. And now a 2-minute closing statement from the challenger, Jake Rush.
Thank you. I'm Jake Rush. I ask for your vote. I'm running for U.S. Congress in District 3. And I ask you to send a different type of congressman to Congress. One who's been there as a sheriff's deputy and seen it in the houses and the neighborhoods, who's been in the courtroom, argued the Constitution, won victories for folks who are downtrodden, who are oppressed, who get run over by the government. I'm focused on the economy, on jobs, and our national debt. I think that we need a congressman who has a personality that's with stability, thoughtfulness, and discipline. I've served my community as a sheriff's deputy. My family is in every branch of the military. I know what it's like to hear taps played on the bugle and know that your loved one's never coming home. I take the duties of Congress exceedingly seriously. I'll represent us with dignity, and I'll make sure that our federal government is lessened with every stroke of the pen to return power to the states, return power to the citizens, and return economic decisions and viability to District 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates. That concludes tonight's live broadcast of Candidate Forum. I'd like to thank all of the candidates for their attendance and would like to thank our sponsors, Potash Corp of White Springs, Tommy Demas Attorney at Law, and Gators Dockside. We invite you to join us again tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. for the candidates for City Council for the City of Lake City and the candidates running for Columbia County Commission. On behalf of the Chamber Government Relations Committee, Florida Gateway College, and the Lake City Reporter, I'm Mike McKee. Good night.